Chapter 18. I dreamed I was trapped in a cage at the pet store, surrounded by other dogs. Thumper was there. So was Marta. I was tired and hungry, and my feet hurt. But when the pet store came into the room, there were no people at all. They were enormous pink cats standing on two legs like people in cat suits. I yelled for them to let me out because I wasn't a dog kind of kid. But the cats ignored me because they were having a giant cat party. They batted around huge balls of yarn and played pin the tail on the sardine. There was a disco ball too. It was quite a nightmare, but it was close enough that when I woke up I was shaky. But it gave me a great idea. I called Malcolm immediately. I think I woke him up. What? You woke me up, he complained. His voice croaked. I told him all about my dream. What did you think? I think it's 6 o'clock in the morning, he mumbled. It's actually 5:58. I hadn't thought to look at the time before I called. Sorry, but what if I threw a party? Silence. Hello, Malcolm. Hello. After a moment, Malcolm spoke again. What? I fell asleep. Did you say a party? A party for what? A surprise party, he mumbled. Malcolm's mom threw a surprise party for his dad last year. Everyone did. When his dad came home, we all jumped out and screamed. Malcolm's father stepped forward, twisted his ankle, and knocked his head on a lamp. He spent the night in the hospital. Mom said Malcolm's mom would never throw a surprise party again for the rest of her natural-born life. No, not a surprise party, I said. Malcolm exhaled. I think he was relieved, like an open house, so people can meet me and see how great I am with dogs, and I'll get a sort of business. What does that have to do with your dream about cats playing with yarn? Asked Malcolm. Forget about the yarn part. The cats were having a party, with games and food. I could do the same thing. After a short pause, Malcolm said, But are you sure you could throw one? I mean, what would the dogs do? They're dogs. How hard could it be? Besides, I'm going to throw the dog party to end all dog parties. We'll have dog treats and dog games. Dogs can make friends. Owners can mingle and talk about how wonderful my dog walking services are. I can even charge money. You can't charge money for a party. Sure I can. Last year I went to a block party. It was free, but they asked for donations. Mom gave a few dollars. People always toss money into jars or they feel guilty. I thought about my runaway dogs and other problems. I was quite an expert at feeling guilt. Plus, guilt is a great way to earn money. I'll put out a giant jar with donation signs. I'll drum up businesses and make a killing all in the same day. And I'll guarantee people are going to be talking about Otto's dog party for years. Malcolm laughed. I have to admit the idea isn't terrible. I know, right? We'll throw the party this afternoon. You buy the dog treats and toys. You call our customers. You put up some signs. Let's go. I pump my fist. We're on. And what will you be doing? Asked Malcolm coolly. Resting. I'm the one that has to smile and play with the dogs. That's very strenuous work. And it's 6 o'clock in the morning. I really should go back to sleep. You woke me up, Malcolm said. And how is smiling and playing such strenuous work? I would tell you, but it would be too exhausting. I lay back on my bed and let out an audible yawn. I have a better idea. You buy the treats. You call the customers. You put up the signs. I can help. I'm going clothes shopping today with my mom. I scoffed. What's more important, you wearing clothes or my throwing a dog party? He needed to adjust his priorities. The most important thing is me not getting into trouble. And I'll get in trouble if I tell Mom I'm not going shopping with her. I need to get a suit for my Aunt Jules's wedding. Isn't she the one that's been married 6 times? 7. You'd think she could skip a few. Malcolm's Aunt Jewel kept getting married over and over again. If you'd asked me, she did it for the wedding presents. It seems like half the stuff we have at home, Mom's got as wedding presents, and she was married only once. After getting married 7 times, Aunt Jewel must be a millionaire. If I got married, I'd get way over $500. Of course, that meant actually talking to a girl other than my sister, so I scratched that plan quickly. It's a lot of work throwing a party, and I had all sorts of things I needed to do. I called my customers and invited them. I think I woke a bunch of them up even though I waited until after 6:30 before I called. A few grumbled and one hung up. but I told everyone to invite their friends with dogs and suggested they tell their friends with dogs to call their friends with dogs. Maybe eventually everyone in the world with dogs would show up, although I didn't think we could fit all those people in my front yard. I promised treats, games, and the chance for their dogs to make new friends. Everyone could have the best time ever, hire me to walk their dogs, and I'd become a dog walking zillionaire. Mom had bought some new printer toner. At first she was mad I used it all the last time, but then I showed her my notebook and told her I would pay her back as soon as the challenge was over. I told her I would even pay her back for her notepad, pencils, and more. I think she was impressed by how responsible I was being, so I made some flyers and printed them. They were amazing. It's Dog Meet Dog, and you and your canine are invited to a dog party. Dog treats, games, guaranteed fun. Party starts at 2 p.m. Sponsored by the You Oughta Call Auto Dog Walking Service. Donations are welcome, preferably $5, but really it's up to you. But don't be cheap. I printed 2 dozen flyers and put them up all over the block. Then I walked to the pet store for supplies. It opened at 10 o'clock, so I had to wait until the doors opened. But as soon as they slid apart, I ran into the store. I figured I had a few extra minutes so I could play with Thumper. But he was napping, and I didn't want to wake him up. Dogs, like people, must sleep in on Sundays. There was one more empty cage, though. Thumper's sister, Marta, was gone, probably adopted. If you jump around and bark, you'll get noticed. But if you're quiet, you get left behind. Lexi raised her hand in class and volunteered for things, so teachers loved her, while quiet Otto napping in the back of the class got overlooked. I guess it's not always that bad, especially when you don't know the answers. But it was the point of the thing that mattered. Be yourself, I whispered to Thumper, although he couldn't hear me through the pane of glass, and because he was asleep, and be glad that you don't have to put up with your annoying sister anymore. I ended up buying 2 bags of dog food and some toys for the party. A rubber duck, 2 fake bones, a frisbee, and some little screaming monkey named Mr. Chatterbox. I hoped it was enough. I loved everything I got except for maybe that screaming monkey. Frankly, Mr. Chatterbox sort of freaked me out. You squeezed his stomach and he went eep really loud. When I first pressed him, I must have jumped 2 feet in the air. I didn't really understand how a dog was supposed to play with a screaming monkey. But those dog toy people must know what they're doing because they have college degrees in dog toy making. Besides, this wasn't a party for me. It was a party for dogs. I hoped they'd think Mr. Chatterbox was a riot. Walking 10 pounds of dog food home from downtown is not easy. I should have brought a red wagon. I stopped to rest a million times and almost gave up. It took nearly an hour to get home, but you can't say you'll have dog food and not serve dog food. That would be like having a surprise party and not yelling surprise. Except that would be a great way to avoid it. Once I was back at the house, I still had a lot to do if this was going to be the best dog party ever. I had to bring up our folding tables from the basement. We didn't have dog bowls, so I filled some of our nice soup bowls with water and some with dog treats. Mom was at work, but she wouldn't have cared. Maybe. I also made popcorn since you can't have a party without popcorn. I scattered the toys around the front lawn, although I wish I had bought more. 5 dog toys for an entire party didn't seem like enough, especially if I had a few hundred dogs. I figured every dog in the neighborhood would come. Who doesn't love a party? I made small business cards with my name and phone number printed on them, and then cut them out with scissors. But most important, I put a giant bowl on the table and a sign that read, "Donation welcome, $5 recommended." I threw in a few dollars to the bowl so it didn't look empty and to encourage guests. People never want to be the first ones to throw money into a bowl. My giant donation counters used to hold fish, but they all died a few years ago. Fish bowls get dirty. Eventually, streaks of green algae lined the side of my bowl, and you could barely see the fish inside. Dad had to empty out the water, so he put the fish in a bucket. But he didn't clean the bucket first, and it had kitchen cleaner in it from the last time. Mom mopped, and the fish died in 10 seconds. Lexi bawled for a week, even though they were just fish. And she never even looked at them, ever. Fish don't do a whole lot. I paced nervously in the front yard. Where were all the dogs? It was already 2:01 and no one's at my party yet. This was a disaster. What are you doing? Asked Lexi, sticking her head out the door. Throwing a dog party. What do you think? I think you're pacing in your long. I don't see dogs. They're coming, I said. Any moment now. Lexi scanned the street. Still don't see anyone. She scanned the street again. Still no one. They'll be here. It takes money to make money. It takes brain cells to have a brain. Then too bad you don't have any. She shook her head, chuckled, and went inside. Just in time, too. She was going to ruin this party like she ruins everything else. A few minutes later, the first guest trotted up, a small, bald guy wearing thick glasses with a large black Doberman. Welcome to the dog party, I exclaimed with my biggest smile. We are the first ones, but we're expecting 200 dogs. 200, the man blubbered. He had some sort of tic and his eye kept blinking, but not all at the same time. It was sort of freaky. Maybe we should go. Dodger doesn't like big crowds. He snuck a nervous peek at the Doberman. Well, maybe not 200, I assured him. Your dog will be fine. I couldn't lose my only guest. I pointed to the former fishbowl. It's free, but donations are welcome. Dodger's owner took out a dollar bill. $5 is better, I suggested. The guy frowned but coughed up the dough. I also walk dogs, you know. I handed him one of my business cards. I'm not only great with dogs, but I'm ultra responsible, I said. The man looked at my card and nodded. We could use a dog walker, he said. Bingo. Meanwhile, another party guest jogged up the sidewalk, a leash in her hand. She had a golden retriever that looked a lot like Alfalfa, rushed over. Welcome to the dog party. $5, please. I thought it was free, she asked. Donations are encouraged, I said, and pointed to the jar. She paid up. I was going to earn a bundle from this party. I made a list in my head of other things I could collect for donations. The Help. I'm stuck living with Lexi Fund. The Help Me find the circus so I can sell Lexi charity. The Help Me buy snakes to put in Lexi's bed foundation. The options were endless. Too bad I didn't have more fish bowls. If I did, I bet I could have earned $500 by dinner time. I handed the jogger my card, and I'm the best dog walker in town. Just ask anyone. Well, not anyone, I added softly. Let's get a treat, Precious, said the woman to her golden retriever, leading her to one of the food bowls. But the Doberman decided he wanted that bowl at the same time. He growled and bared his teeth as Precious got close. Dodger, no, said the short, bald guy, tugging on Dodger's leash. The guy's eyes blinked randomly. Back, Precious, back, said the woman jogger to her golden retriever. Precious was tough, though. She was only half the size of Dodger, but she stood her ground. Still, things didn't look good. No problem, I assured them. I'm a professional dog walker, after all. This was just the sort of thing that would impress future clients. I bent down and patted Doberman's back. It's okay, boy. Dodger snapped at me, and then at Precious. You're supposed to have fun at a party. Dodger snapped at me again. I took a few steps back. There are some things even professional dog walkers can't fix. But I couldn't stay to watch, because more dogs and their owners approached. This was going great, except for the potential dog fight about to break out. $5, please, I pointed to the jar. The owner's looking puzzled. It's a donation, I explained, but everyone's giving. Meanwhile, Dodger and Precious still barked at each other, but more angrily than before. Two of the new dogs barked, and another dog began to cower. A woman with a poodle walked up the sidewalk, but she saw the growling and turned around. I bent down and whispered calming words to the barking boxer that had just come up the path, but it was like the dogs weren't even listening, which I guess shouldn't have surprised me. The more dogs came up the sidewalk. Donation jar, I shouted. I'm not sure when Buttercut showed up, but I couldn't miss her yapping. Yap, jump, yap, jump. Her squeal riled up a German shepherd that I hadn't noticed, which began barking back. I must have had a dozen dogs at the party. 10 of them growled, 1 yapped, and 1 cowered behind its owner's legs. We have dog toys, I shouted, hoping some of the dogs might get distracted. Then in brown and black Dachshund, I think her name was Oscar, but I'm not sure about that. Found Mr. Chatterbox. I heard the screaming monkey before I saw it. The loud eep came from behind where Dodgers and Precious snapped, their owners still struggling to hold them back. As soon as the monkey made noise, however, the two dogs stopped. They stared at the monkey, their eyes fixated on the toy. But it wasn't just them. All the dogs stopped and stared, except for Buttercup, who continued yapping and leaping. I have to hand it to those dog toy people. I guess they can earn those diplomas. Dogs love Mr. Chatterbox. But the quiet felt even scarier than the growling. The air was thick with tension. Something bad was going to happen. I took the 2 steps toward my house. Dodger and Precious continued staring at Oscar and Mr. Chatterbox, their eyes growing wider, their mouths expanding, drool dripping off Dodger's fangs. All of the dogs except Buttercup gasped. 11 dogs, 1 toy. Oscar dropped the toy and went back. I think he realized he was in deep trouble. When the monkey hit the ground, it made a soft eat. That did it. Dodger rushed forward. So did Precious. So did the poodle, the boxer, and most of the other dogs. Some of the owners were so surprised they released their leashes. Suddenly, we had half a dozen runaway dogs. But they weren't running away. They were headed straight for Mr. Chatterbox. I guess this is how people must act the day after Thanksgiving, when they go to all those early Christmas sales and start fighting over the last mega robot toy. 6 dogs pounced on poor Mr. Chatterbox at pretty much the exact same moment. Even Buttercup got on the action as poor Miss Linkletter shrieked, "Come back to Mama!" The poor stuffed monkey screams were now screams of agony, as pieces of face, fur, and arms were ripped to shreds by a herd of frenzied dogs. 2 dogs played tug-of-war with a leg. Another ate Mr. Chatterbox's head and then threw it up. I didn't want to watch, but it was like a traffic accident. I had to look, even though it was horrible. Owners grabbed leashes and desperately yanked their pets away from Mealy. Dogs' owners' eyes were blinking 100 times a second as he finally pulled his Doberman away. With no toys left to rip apart, Dog lost interest. Luckily, no one was injured, not including Mr. Chatterbox, of course. He had basically disintegrated into 1,000 tiny pieces. "Who wants to play dog games?" I asked, waving the frisbee. Apparently no one. That was the end of the party. The owners marched off with their dogs angrily. And as if it was my fault, "You ought to call Otto," I said, trying to pass out my business card. But no one wanted anything to do with them, or me. Dodger's owners even tossed my card back at me. Mrs. Linkletter walked away angrily too. And I'm pretty sure Buttercup stopped yapping just long enough to snarl at me. But how was I supposed to know that Mr. Chatterbox would be so popular? Just as bad, almost everyone grabbed their money back from the jar. 2 of Mom's soup bowls had broken in half, and the rest were covered in dog spit. She was going to kill me, and I'd have to add up the cost of replacing them in my notepad. I sat in my front lawn, my head in my hands, a piece of Mr. Chatterbox's arm on the ground next to me. I looked up at the house. Lexi watched from her bedroom window. When she spotted me noticing her, she closed the blinds. But not before I saw what I think was a smirk on her. I picked up the bowls and I started to clean them up. The war would end in less than 2 weeks, and my brilliant ideas were causing more harm than good. Meanwhile, Lexi was probably going online right now, this very moment, to pick out cat clothes to buy for Fluffnutter.